The original Stalker game served as inspiration for some of the biggest games in the world, and the hype building for its nearly finished sequel is through the roof. The brand new trailer for Stalker 2 looks like it's going to once again deliver us into the heart of Chernobyl with the same horrifically realistic mutants, anomalies, and the abandoned buildings surrounding Pripyat. It's clear that Stalker fever has been going around. But why, you might be asking yourself, especially if you're not familiar with this 15-year-old franchise. Operator Drewski recently made a very successful video about a Stalker mod, and the website hosting those mods nearly crashed under the massive download queue. The interest for this ancient game has never really died off and is in fact ramping up massively right now. Now, to understand the current hype for Stalker, we need to take a look at its legacy. The first entry in the franchise, Shadow of Chernobyl, launched in 2007. It was a semi-open world RPG sim, sort of in the vein of classics like Deus Ex and System Shock 2. But Stalker brought with it a style and gameplay that was so potent, it basically spawned a genre of games trying to absorb that same feeling. It almost sounds cliche to describe the world of Stalker at this point. However, 15 years ago, no other game threw you into a dilapidated, radioactive world where you had to scavenge, manage your inventory meticulously, and fight for survival every second. And from a technical perspective, the game was also pushing boundaries as well. Bigger levels, more modern controls, massively expanded inventories, more voice acting, more combat, and just more FPS mechanics in general. Shadow of Chernobyl, Elder Scrolls Oblivion, Fallout 3 were all games that generally took gaming on a massive leap forward. Unfortunately though, Stalker suffered pre-release leaks, vague release windows, delays, and a litany of bugs at launch that modders are still fixing to this day. And sadly, these issues really overshadowed the game's otherwise incredible design at launch, leading to mixed reviews and a slow climb to its commercial success. In other words, the game was really more of a cult hit, but the fact that this old, buggy title is making waves today speaks volumes about its lasting effect that it's had on gamers. Now, over the years, Shadows of Chernobyl's cult following has continued to grow. That's thanks in part to the developers releasing mod tools and special builds that include cut content. Especially these days, making Stalker mods is pretty accessible, and the sheer variety of mods available is honestly staggering. There's everything from simple bug fix patches to weaponry balancers to full conversion mods that make the game an entirely different experience. However, it's really not just the modding that has fueled Shadows of Chernobyl's continued popularity. Between 2008 and 2010, the developers released 2 follow-up Stalker games that both got favorable reviews. However, they failed to impress some of the original fans who felt that the titles were more like expansions than really proper sequels. And so fans have been waiting for that proper Stalker 2 sequel for a very long time. Recently, mods like Anomaly, Gamma, Call of Chernobyl, and Lost Alpha have pushed Shadows of Chernobyl to a nearly modern-feeling Tarkov-like experience, with extensive gameplay options, overhauls to the original mechanics, improved animations, and entirely new faction-based mission systems. Coverage by YouTubers like Operator Drewski in the past few months have done a great job of highlighting the immersive and frankly totally open nature of these mods. Compared to the typical open-world RPG games that we've been getting lately, like Ghost Recon Games, The Division 2, Assassin's Creed, Fallout 76, and even Cyberpunk 2077, it's impressive that Stalker easily outdoes those titles with its true sense of immersion and hardcore mechanics. You can go just about anywhere in the game, work for or kill just about any NPC, interact with complex and dynamic trading and faction systems, do complex weapon modding, and so much more that modern games either don't offer or have instead baked them into simplistic XP grinding systems. Players interested in more immersive sim-style RPGs have sort of just been left to fend for themselves for a really long time. Even the extremely well-received Metro franchise, which is considered by many to be the modern, spiritual successor to the Stalker franchise, still spends most of its games sending players down linear paths through subway tunnels and occasional surface missions that limit you to small areas of the environment. The third Metro game, Exodus, went semi-open world just like Shadow of Chernobyl, but you still mostly progressed through these areas in a linear way and really only offered a glimpse of the depth of Stalker world. Now, multiplayer games have actually done a pretty good job of engaging players in more open-world exploratory experiences than many of the single players were able to achieve. Games like DayZ and PlayerUnknown's Battlegrounds both borrowed so much style and mechanics from Stalker. PUBG's dilapidated Erangel map borrows a ton of visual cues. The hardcore survival system of both games, looting, and meticulous inventory management are all components of what Stalker made work so well in the FPS genre. Escape from Tarkov is basically a modern take on Stalker from a more multiplayer perspective, just without the focus on radiation and paranormal plotlines. Other games have even tried to follow much more closely in Stalker's footsteps. Servarium, an early access Steam title, was using the same type of world design and environmental anomalies to attract players. The Will to Live Online again borrowed many of the same visual cues and mutated creatures attacking you. And I gotta say, it's impressive that so many games have borrowed from Stalker's design, yet none have really been able to truly recreate the feeling of the original game. There's nothing else out there that really offers that true Stalker experience other than just Stalker itself. Everything either feels like a pale imitation or more of a sanitized experience built for modern audiences that might be put off by the hardcore nature of a game like Stalker that lets you die in the first 10 minutes to a rabid mutant dog. Many of the modern games in the immersive RPG genre feel like they put training wheels on you, and the most hardcore thing that you can do in them is like play without the heads-up display turned on. Stalker is like the Dark Souls of open-world FPS games. No hand-holding, and you can die at any second to even the most basic of enemies if you're just not being careful. So when it comes to the hype surrounding Stalker 2, it honestly feels warranted. This game could be as hardcore and immersive as the original. It could do what no other game has successfully done with a modern title, and based on the trailers, it looks like that's what they're trying to achieve with a more minimalistic, almost anti-flashy visual approach to the game. It feels more real and approachable. It's being built on Unreal Engine 5, so it shouldn't have too many issues pushing the visuals as needed. However, the chunky frame rate in parts of the latest trailer were very apparent, suggesting that there is still plenty of optimization work to be done. A big question mark and even dark cloud hovering over Stalker 2 is the circumstances of its development. The bulk of development has been happening during the COVID pandemic, and it's continuing through Russia's attack of Ukraine. And guess what country Stalker's development team is from? That's right, the Ukraine. The developers actually had to flee Kiev and set up shop in Prague to continue their development. The war and having to flee has put the game on hold for months, and this is all on top of many other setbacks over the years of dev teams trying and failing for one reason or another to produce this sequel. All of these roadblocks and hurdles could lead to another Cyberpunk 2077 situation where missing features, cut content, technical issues, and overzealous marketing could really lead to a massive disaster of a launch. We've only seen glimpses of the gameplay so far, and while the footage hits all the hallmarks of the franchise like homebrewed AKs, tossing bolts at anomalies, the iconic mutants, and an atmospheric wasteland, we still don't exactly know how the world and gameplay will compare to the original. If the game fails to deliver the same hardcore open world environment which the original game offered in spades, it's tough to say how the community will react. Personally, I think the market is ripe for another extremely hardcore FPS RPG. On paper, games like Dark Souls and Elden Ring really shouldn't work due to the insane challenge and frustration that they bring to players. But there's something about those games that don't hold your hand or treat you like a brain-dead gamer that just heightens the experience. And while From Software may be dominating the market on hardcore action RPG style games, nobody has capitalized on that formula in the FPS world. That is, nobody since the original Stalker games. What are your thoughts leading up to the launch of Stalker 2? Are you excited for this game? Do you think it's going to suffer through some of the same buggy problems that the original title had? And if so, will you be playing it? Let me know in the comments, and if you're interested in some other immersive sim-style games, check out my latest video about Star Citizen's 3.18 update. It's adding persistence to the game's massive universe that really opens up a whole new level of gameplay. As always guys, thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you next time. This is Level Cap, signing off.